The story begins as the main character Kento opens his eyes and finds himself standing in a Colosseum, while his hands drip with blood and his mind feels lost. But soon he realizes it is just a dream, and actually he stands inside a ring where his mentor calls him out because he was zoning out. The other opponent steps into the ring, and before the match starts, the opponent named Ryuji mocks Kento for losing 10 matches in a row and shows no sign of respect. The referee tells both fighters to take their positions and explains the rules of the match, and then announces the start of the fight. Ryuji begins to show off his moves as he believes Kento is nothing more than a weak fighter with dead eyes and no spirit. Ryuji charges toward Kento, hoping to finish the fight quickly, but Kento dodges the attack cleanly and punches Ryuji with little effort, making him spit blood and fall into the arena. Suddenly, Kento finds himself standing in the Colosseum again, where the crowd keeps cheering for him, and his eyes catch a man giving him a thumbs down and seeing that triggers something deep inside his heart. So he walks toward Ryuji and starts punching him with all the strength his body can give. The referee tries to stop him, but Kento punches the referee and then turns back to Ryuji and starts punching him again without holding back. Soon, Kento's mentor steps into the ring and tries to stop him from going too far, but Kento seems unable to listen to anyone around him. The president of FFC, Kanemaru Joe, watches the match between Kento and Ryuji and finds it quite interesting while the other employees start showing their concern about the match, even though it is just a fight between two amateurs. Seeing Kento knock down his opponent and still get disqualified, yet not showing any care about it, makes Kanemaru feel curious and want to meet Kento in person. It makes the employees wonder if the chairman sees something special in Kento because they believe he will surely expel him, but Kanemaru corrects their thoughts. Kento not only creates an opening for landing a strong punch on Ryuji, but also dodges Ryuji's attack perfectly, and that makes Kanemaru even more interested in Kento, because the ring might finally have a villain, someone wild and untamable. After the fight ends, Kento walks back to the locker room with his mentor, where Shiraishi shows concern not only for Kento's disqualification, but also for the risk of getting kicked out of the organization. Shiraishi asks if something happened to him, but Kento stays silent for a moment, then lowers his head and apologizes, promising that he will apologize to Ryuji properly. Even after getting hurt and losing 10 matches in a row, Kento still shows up at the gym, but 1 week before the match he suddenly disappears, and now Shiraishi asks what happened during that time. Hearing the question, Kento's mind flashes back to a battle scene so vivid and terrifying that his whole body starts to shake uncontrollably. Seeing Kento trembling like that, Shiraishi gets so worried that he grabs a cup from the basket and places it in Kento's mouth, calmly telling him to breathe slowly, because now he realizes Kento is trapped in a panic attack. Shiraishi asks if something like this has ever happened to him before, but before Kento can answer, Kanemaru steps into the room to greet Shiraishi. It is at this moment the story reveals Kento's mentor's name, Shiraishi, as Kanemaru addresses him. Shiraishi immediately apologizes to Kanemaru for the incident during the match and says that he plans to apologize to Kento's opponent as well. But Kanemaru, the chairman, tells him there is no need for that, since matters like this should be handled between fighters themselves. Even so, Shiraishi still shows concern about how unstable Kento looked during the fight, saying it felt far beyond normal agitation. Hearing that, Kanemaru's voice turns serious as he says, "This is not something the organization can simply ignore, because the martial arts world is not some charity group where they keep fighters who cannot control their emotions." That sharp truth leaves both Kento and Shiraishi with heavy hearts, but Kanemaru softens for a moment and says the match was impressive enough to make him consider giving Kento one more chance. Kanemaru then explains that the organization is preparing for an upcoming event, FFC 7, but one of the underdog fighters has dropped out at the last minute because of fear. He looks at Shiraishi and says that he wants Kento to take the empty spot and step into the ring as the replacement fighter. Hearing this offer, Shiraishi asks about the opponent, and Kanemaru reveals that it is none other than Oji Taisei, known as the Lightweight Prince. Shiraishi freezes for a moment, realizing that Oji is ranked 3rd in the FFC lightweight division, and his shock deepens when he remembers that Oji is actually a welterweight who cut down, meaning Kento stands no real chance to match his size or strength. With only 1 week left, there is no way Kento can cut enough weight to meet the category, but before Shiraishi can refuse, Kanemaru adds a threat, saying it's fine to decline, but doing so will end any future contracts with FFC. Then Kanemaru sweetens the deal, promising that if Kento puts on a good fight, he will be guaranteed a professional debut. The deal sounds so tempting that Shiraishi tries to ask for time to think, but before he can finish, Kento agrees to the fight without hesitation. Kanemaru smiles at Kento's answer, satisfied, and then leaves the locker room. After Kanemaru leaves, Shiraishi turns to Kento and tells him that if he really wants to fight, he will need to lose 10 kilograms in 1 week, which will leave him nothing but a walking corpse. Shiraishi explains the danger and the situation clearly, but even after hearing everything, Kento's resolve stays the same, and he says he still wants to do it. Seeing Kento's determination, Shiraishi warns him that if something like today happens again, he will ban him from the gym because they are not some street gang but a team of fighters. And what Kento did was nothing short of a street brawl as he ignored the rules and disrespected the match and referee. Kento lowers his head again and immediately regrets his actions, quietly promising that it will never happen again. Shiraishi feels a little relieved after hearing that and finally tells Kento to go and apologize to the other team properly. As they start walking, Shiraishi pats Kento on the back and congratulates him on his first official win. Later that night, Kanemaru makes a call to Oji, but the one who picks up is Oji's assistant, who passes along the message about the new opponent for the upcoming match. Oji, already fully drunk, hears the news which ruins his mood so badly that he smashes the glass in his hand and then asks for the name of the fighter he is going to face. Later, the scene shifts to a fortress under attack. Enemies charge from all sides while Kento fights back with everything he has, but soon he realizes that none of it is real, as a woman's voice calls his name again and again, snapping him out of his thoughts. Kento blinks, lost for words, and apologizes to her as he admits that he cannot even remember what they were talking about. The woman, sitting across from him on a chair, looks like a therapist, and she calmly continues the conversation, mentioning that his symptoms seem to have started after a certain dream, one that feels like a long, endless nightmare. Hearing this, she says that she will prescribe some anxiety medicine along with sleeping pills to help him rest. She writes down the prescription for a week's supply and tells Kento to return once he has finished the medication. The simple advice surprises Kento, but also makes him feel a little relieved as he walks out of the room, thankful that the doctor does not treat him like some kind of lunatic. As Kento walks away across the zebra crossing, the doctor stands by the window of her office, quietly watching him disappear into the street. While looking at him, she softly speaks to herself, saying that Kento once claimed his dreams are so vivid that he experiences out-of-body episodes and believes he spent 5 years fighting as a slave in ancient Greece. The doctor recalls how Kento told her that the dreams feel too real and that he can no longer tell the difference between reality and imagination. She also remembers that he mentioned suffering from constant déjà vu and intense flashbacks of those ancient battles, memories so strong that they started interfering with his everyday life. Whenever those memories surface, his emotions spiral out of control, and even the smallest triggers make him explode with rage. Meanwhile, Kento reaches his house, walks to the mirror, and stares at his reflection while thinking about what he did in the arena earlier that day. He slowly removes his shirt and sees the injury mark still left on his body, a silent reminder of the fight. The scene then returns to the doctor, who sits at her desk while concluding that Kento shows all signs of PTSD, a condition caused by repeated exposure to the same traumatic environment. But even as she says it, the thought lingers in her mind. How could a single night of nightmares change someone this much? The scene shifts back to Kento sitting on his bed, watching a video on his phone where Oji fights another opponent. It moves forward to Kento and Shiraishi watching that same match together, seeing how Oji defeats his opponent brutally in only 7 seconds, securing his record of 13 matches and 9 wins. Kento quietly admits that Oji is strong while Shiraishi begins to explain Oji's public biodata, listing his stats. Both Kento and Oji stand at the same height, but unlike Oji, who cuts weight in a planned way, Kento now faces the impossible task of losing 10 kilograms in just 1 week. Shiraishi warns him that such extreme weight cutting will leave him in terrible condition, and the little time left for recovery between the weigh-in and the fight will not be enough to regain his strength. If the weight cut goes as planned, Kento will step into the ring as little more than a walking corpse while his opponent stands at his full prime. Shiraishi also points out that Kento only just got used to fighting in 3-minute rounds, which makes the upcoming fight even more difficult. At the end of it, Shiraishi asks him one last time if he still wants to go through with the match, but Kento, without even a second of hesitation, says he will do it. Shiraishi lets out a deep sigh, knowing the path ahead will only get harder, and tells Kento the plain truth that right now he is weak in every area and his chances of winning are almost non-existent. But those words are not meant to crush his Spirit, they are meant to remind him that if he still chooses to fight, then the only thing left to focus on is victory. Shiraishi advises Kento that if he wants to win, the only way is to knock Oji out in the very first round, just like the last match. After that, Shiraishi puts on his gloves and tells Kento to start sparring with him for a warm-up. Shiraishi instructs him to imagine that this is the real fight against Oji and that his body is already weak from the extreme weight cut, so he must conserve energy as much as possible while defending and striking. Shiraishi charges forward, still teaching him, and tells Kento to throw a headshot and aim for a knockout blow. But before Shiraishi can even finish his sentence, Kento moves first and throws a punch that Shiraishi barely manages to block in. Time. Kento does not stop there. He keeps pushing forward, throwing powerful punches one after another, each one so heavy that Shiraishi's arms start to tremble and sweat drips from his face. Feeling the weight of Kento's strikes, Shiraishi starts to believe that maybe, just maybe, Kento really can win against Oji. Later at the gym, Takeshi feels worried about Kento because a recent incident shows how dangerous dieting during weight cutting can be for fighters. Shiraishi glances at Kento and tells Takeshi that he also understands it is wrong, but the situation leaves no easy choice, and because of Kento's eating and salt intake, it now only depends on whether he can endure it or not. Takeshi believes that even if Kento manages to lose 10 kilograms, he still cannot win against Oji, who stands as the third ranked fighter. In the end, Shiraishi reminds Takeshi that if Kento wishes to quit, he is always free to stop, because fighting only brings worry to family, and all this effort is only for their own self-satisfaction, and no fight ever puts food on the table. Hearing this, Takeshi tries to convince Kento to give up the match, but Kento immediately refuses to back down. After that, Shiraishi starts giving instructions to Kento for the upcoming sparring session, where all gym fighters will join forces and train together. Shiraishi also explains Kento's diet plan carefully to help him with the weight-cutting process. Shiraishi sets up the sparring between Takeshi and Kento and hands headgear to Takeshi, but he shakes his head and decides to fight without wearing it. Takeshi feels uneasy about Kento, so he makes up his mind to force Kento to give up by pushing him in the ring. The sparring session starts and Takeshi throws the first punch as he rushes in, but Kento easily dodges the attack without breaking his focus. Kento keeps dodging Takeshi's punches smoothly and begins his own offense, and after trading moves, Kento finally manages to take Takeshi down. It turns out that Takeshi is actually ranked 5th in the FFC lightweight division, but Kento still overpowers him. Shiraishi quickly hands water to Takeshi, but Takeshi tries to act tough and says he is ready to go for the second round. Shiraishi tells him that continuing is not possible, but Takeshi keeps insisting on going back into the ring. Suddenly, Takeshi notices the cold, sharp look from Kento's eyes, but Kento says nothing and simply shows gratitude for the match. The sparring session ends, and Shiraishi places Takeshi in charge of spotting Kento's weaknesses and helping him to improve them. After that, Shiraishi instructs the fighter squad to prepare for relay-style sparring and tells them to rotate one by one against Kento. First up is Shuji, and Kento must save his energy carefully while also putting pressure on his opponent and draining their strength little by little. The match between Shuji and Kento begins as both focus on the fight and push their limits. Later, the scene shifts to nighttime, where at a restaurant the therapist doctor and her friends are enjoying dinner together. The therapist doctor glances out the window and notices Kento still doing his night run as part of his weight-cutting routine. The next morning, Kento spars inside the ring while Shuji and Takeshi stand by and watch him closely, as all the fighters have already been knocked down at least once, and even Takeshi gets knocked out cold for a short moment. Takeshi reminds himself that he is not the only one who struggled today, and Shuji looks at him with a smirk while teasing him for blacking out earlier. Shuji defends himself and says he only got hit because he let his guard down for a second. Takeshi snaps back and claims that Shuji would have ended up in a worse state if it were him. Shuji only shrugs and boasts that he would have dodged the hit and countered it without any trouble. Both of them keep making excuses, but deep down they both look forward to the next match and can't hide their excitement. Shiraishi joins their casual talk and brings up his concern about Kento's punching power, because on the first day, Kento's punches had enough force to make his hands swell, but now his strength has clearly dropped. Shiraishi notices that Kento is losing weight fast, but wonders if his body can recover its full power in just one day. Shiraishi feels worried that Kento might step into the ring and fail to land even a single solid hit. The scene shifts to another world where Kento finds himself standing on a battlefield, ready to face off against some approaching warriors. It turns out to be just a dream, and Kento wakes up with his face looking pale and drained of all energy. He takes his pills quietly and eats a banana before putting on his jacket and heading outside for his running session. Later on, he visits the public bath together with Shiraishi, Takeshi, and Shuji. As he takes off his shirt, Takeshi's eyes catch the sight of a strange mark on Kento's back, and worry grows inside him as he asks about it, but Kento stays silent and gives no reply. Shiraishi looks at the mark as well and wonders if Kento is suffering from a muscle tear. Before stepping into the bath, Kento checks his weight and the scale shows he only needs to lose 30 grams more, which leaves both Takeshi and Shuji completely surprised because they thought Kento would give up and forfeit the match by now. Takeshi feels proud and encourages him as they all step together into the steam bath. The hot steam surrounds them, and Kento's mind drifts back to the nightmare where he stands in a wide-open area under red clouds and a moon eclipse and fights off a wild animal that comes charging at him. After sitting quietly in the thick steam for a while, Kento steps out again and checks his weight, but still finds a few more grams left to shed. The scene shifts to another part of the bathhouse, where two rough-looking delinquent men grow annoyed because of the loud noises coming from the steam room. They open the door carelessly, and soon realize their mistake, as they see nothing but tough boxers with large muscular bodies sitting inside the room. Their eyes stop on Kento, whose weak appearance looks so concerning that they wonder if they should call an ambulance. Takeshi calmly tells them that Kento is just cutting weight, which instantly leaves the two men frozen in fear. The scene, then, moves to the arena where Kento stands on the scale for his final weigh-in, and the results confirm he is qualified for the match. Right after him, OG steps onto the scale for his own weight check, but it shows his weight goes over 70 kilograms. And the referee disqualifies him on the spot, which leaves Takeshi, Shuji, and Shiraishi standing there in complete shock. Kanemaru storms toward OG with anger burning in his eyes. OG's assistant steps forward quickly and explains that the doctor orders OG to stop cutting weight because of his health. Hearing this, Kanemaru grows even more furious because OG barely cuts any weight from the beginning, and this was supposed to be the main event, the big show everyone was waiting for. OG smirks and gives a lazy apology, saying he does not have much time to get ready anyway. Kanemaru snaps back, saying that an apology will not fix anything. OG shrugs and points out that it is all legal because he never got paid yet and he already finished his contract with FFC. It becomes clear now OG is only trying to protect his own name because he has another deal waiting for him somewhere else. He keeps acting clueless on purpose, not showing any guilt. Kanemaru, trying not to explode, offers him a deal. If OG wins the match, he will get 3 million yen, but if he loses, he must give up all his fight money and even get a point taken, away for failing the weight cut. OG accepts the deal without a second thought. Kento steps in, asking who his opponent will be. Shiraishi laughs at OG, calling him irresponsible, and OG's face turns red with anger. Kanemaru tells Kento he can either fight someone else or he can face OG, and if he wins, he will get 1.6 million yen. Without much thinking, Kento accepts. Shiraishi shows he is worried about Kento's health, but Kento stays calm and says he will be fine by the time of the match. OG grins wickedly and teases Kento, saying he will lose and spend all his prize money paying hospital bills, but Kento fires back, reminding OG that he cannot even make weight, and that hits OG's pride hard. His face turns dark with anger, but before he can shout, Kanemaru raises a hand and tells everyone to wait until the media arrives. Then he turns away and leaves without another word. Later, the media rushes in with their cameras and notebooks. Kento once again makes weight easily while OG gets disqualified for the second time. The reporters start whispering, putting the pieces together, realizing OG never planned to cut weight at all. Kanemaru takes the microphone and starts explaining the disqualification. Then he announces a new offer. If Kento loses, he will get no pay at all, but if OG wins, he will get double the money. The news spreads fast like fire because nobody has ever heard of a deal like this before. The reporters buzz with worry, wondering if Kento will even survive the fight. Because with 7 kilograms difference, it might be a one-sided beating that nobody will forget. For the fight shoot, OG and Kento stand inside the ring, staring each other down. OG sneers and tells Kento that he will make him regret his brave choice. Kanemaru passes the mic to Kento, wanting the media to catch his words. Kento takes a deep breath and boldly claims he will end the match in the very first round. OG grabs the mic fast and growls that he will toy with Kento and knock him out before the round even finishes. The reporters cannot believe what they are hearing. It sounds like a scandal too big to hide. After everything, Kanemaru tells his assistant to spread OG's bad image everywhere in the media and to send a video to FC, making them doubt OG's character even more. Kanemaru smiles coldly, knowing he will make OG pay for trying to make a fool out of him. The assistant, who has a soft, motherly look, asks Kanemaru why he picks an amateur like Kento. Kanemaru just chuckles and says, "A fight is never decided until it is over." The assistant asks if he believes Kento can actually win. Kanemaru shakes his head and says he is not dreaming that big, but if Kento puts up a good fight, it will be enough. It will be a fascinating public execution. After everything, they head back together. In the car, Shiraishi quietly makes a decision, feeling the weight of the moment. He thinks this might be the perfect chance for Kento to win, now that OG has been penalized for failing to make weight. This means Kento only needs to score some points to turn the tide. While they drive, Shiraishi starts explaining the new plan to Kento, trying to stay calm, while Takeshi sits in the back seat, his stomach growling with jealousy as he watches Kento enjoy delicious food. The new strategy feels strange, completely different from anything they usually do. Shiraishi calls it their true plan, the real way they should fight, but Kento shakes his head, feeling unsure, thinking no one would want to watch a fight like that. Shiraishi, serious now, tells him he must hold his ground if he wants to prove everyone wrong, everyone who thinks he is going to lose. Kento, his voice firm, reminds Shiraishi that he already promised to finish the fight in the first round. Win or lose, he plans to keep that promise. When Shiraishi looks into Kento's eyes, he sees it, that strong, burning desire to win. And in that moment, Shiraishi has no choice left but to trust him. 30 long hours pass, full of quiet tension. Finally, the main event of FFC 97 begins. The crowd roars as the ring announcer calls out Kento's name for the blue corner. Half the stadium cheers loudly for him, while the other half sits in silence, waiting for OG. The media reporters murmur among themselves, amazed at how quickly Kento has recovered. A lady reporter, smiling a little, says Kento might just be too handsome for this rough sport, and it almost hurts to think of him getting beaten up. Then OG's name echoes across the arena for the red corner, and the stadium explodes with noise, louder and fiercer than before. Cameras flash as Kanemaru's assistant captures every moment, recording OG's grand entrance. OG throws a mocking glance at Kento, moving his lips with a cruel smile, making it clear he thinks Kento will soon be eating hospital food. The referee steps forward, gives a sharp signal, and the opening bell rings. Kento stands strong in his boxing stance, stepping forward without fear. OG attacks fast, sending a low kick right at him. Kento doesn't even block it, taking the hit without flinching, which sparks anger inside OG. Another low kick follows, faster, sharper, but Kento again absorbs it. OG starts to believe he has the fight under control, believing Kento is weaker than he looks. But what he does not know is that Kento has already survived battles far scarier than anything OG can imagine. Seeing Kento a little unbalanced, OG charges forward, aiming a heavy punch at his face. Kento, quick like a shadow, regains his balance and slips out of the way. OG swings again, thinking he can catch him this time, but Kento dodges once more, smooth and easy. The crowd holds its breath as Kento continues to avoid every strike, and then suddenly, with the speed of lightning, Kento lands a clean punch right on OG. Shock spreads across the arena. OG, face twisted in anger, throws a wild punch back, but Kento dodges again and launches a powerful uppercut straight into OG's chin. OG's body freezes for a second before he falls to the mat, completely unconscious. Kento tosses him down like a storm sweeping away the weak, leaving Kanemaru staring, mouth open, because this outcome was something even he had never dreamed of. From the side, the female reporter turns to her colleague, asking if he caught that moment on camera. But the poor man, still frozen in awe, can only shake his head, realizing he had been too stunned to even press record. Takeshi rushes into the ring and checks OG quickly, waving at the referee to stop the match because it is over. The whole arena falls silent for a moment as everyone tries to understand what just happened. The newcomer, Kento, has defeated OG, the third-ranked champion. Inside Kento's head, strange voices begin whispering to him, telling him to finish OG for good. His eyes darken for a second, but then Shiraishi calls his name loudly, and Kento snaps back to himself. Shuji, Takeshi, and Shiraishi all hurry over, grabbing Kento by the arms, smiling and shouting with surprise and happiness because Kento has won. Shiraishi pats him on the shoulder and throws a proud grin at him. Kento lifts his eyes and looks at the stunned faces of the audience, but he stays quiet, feeling a strange calm inside. The commentators start buzzing, saying that after OG kicked Kento's legs, they thought Kento lost balance, but it turns out they were fooled, badly fooled. They cannot believe how calm and strong Kento stayed, even though it was his first pro fight and he was up against such a big name. They also say Kento didn't give Oji a chance to attack again at the end, and Kanemaru, watching everything, starts thinking it must be some kind of miracle. Kento keeps his word and finishes Oji in the first round. Later, Oji finally wakes up and the whole venue sinks into a pin-drop silence because so many people here are Oji's fans. But now a new star has appeared and his name is Kento, a rookie who beat a top fighter like it was nothing. Kanemaru comes back, bringing some flashy girls with him, and he stands proudly next to Kento. A reporter steps forward and holds up a mic, asking Kento about his feelings after the win. Kento answers, simply saying he feels disappointed. The reporter laughs awkwardly, saying Kento probably means he has not shown everything yet. The reporter asks again if Kento had any trouble fighting Oji even though Oji missed weight. Kento shakes his head and says no without even thinking, and the reporter looks a little nervous now. Trying to lighten the mood, the reporter asks what Kento thinks about surprising everyone who thought Oji would win. Kento looks straight ahead and says he wants to fight the champion next, if the champion is not too scared to face him. Everyone gasps a little. Even Kanemaru blinks, surprised because he thought Oji was the villain, but maybe Kento is something even bigger.